It really wasn't that long ago that Fire Emblem was completely unknown to most US gamers. And yet here we are with Fire Emblem Awakening, the 11th game in the series, though only the 5th one to make it to the US, and it's also the first time the series has appeared on the 3DS. Now while many gamers have since been enlightened to the Fire Emblem series, this is actually my first one. I know, what kind of Nintendo fan does that make me? So I'll be coming at this review from a somewhat unique perspective that might cater more to those new to the series than those who are already intimately familiar with it. So best I can tell, Fire Emblem Awakening continues in the footsteps of its predecessors and adds a turn-based tactical RPG. Now if you don't know what any of that means, here's a quick rundown. At its core, Fire Emblem Awakening is kind of like a game of chess, except instead of moving only one piece, or character in this case, you move them all one by one every turn, and then the opponent's team does the same. Now one key difference is that every character has a completely unique set of stats that determines everything from how many spaces they can move to their strength in battle. So really, the entire game is about moving your characters into strategic positions around the battlefield to both complement one another, while also avoiding making them unnecessary targets. Now the usual goal of each mission is to take down your opponent's entire army, and you do this by getting close to another unit and using the attack option. Then once the battle actually starts, it's totally out of your hands, as the results are completely dependent on the stats of the dueling characters. Which is why playing strategically is a must, so you don't end up constantly taking on more powerful foes. Fortunately, the game provides easy access to everything you need to know about the characters on the battlefield thanks to the information-dense touchscreen. But what the game doesn't provide easy access to is what exactly all that information means. This likely won't be an issue for existing fans of this series, but as a newcomer to Fire Emblem, I was at a complete loss as to what exactly some stats meant and what the exact purpose was of some of the available actions. Now the game actually does do a pretty good job of introducing the very basics, it just fails to deliver any of the intricacies. Of course, you'll pick up on a lot of this simply by putting time into the game, but I feel that a proper, optional tutorial would have helped a lot in making me feel less in the dark. But putting aside the fact that I didn't fully know what I was doing for the first several hours, the core gameplay of Fire Emblem Awakening delivers a satisfying experience. It very much rewards strategic thinking, both in the short term for each mission, but also in the long term as you develop the characters and their relationships with one another, which can greatly impact the performance on the battlefield. Now tying all of these battles together is the game's story, which is conveyed mostly through simply animated in-game cutscenes before and after each mission. Although they are well written, they're also unnecessarily wordy, particularly since many of the cutscenes are little more than justification for why you're battling any number of different armies. But occasionally, you'll be presented with a pre-rendered cinematic that's both wonderfully animated and fully voiced that really helps push the story along. These are simply fantastic. They look beautiful and sound great, with a competent voice cast that delivers some superb results, especially by Nintendo standards.
Mario?
But they're also a relative rarity, popping up just a handful of times throughout the story. I really just wish there were more of them, as they're far more engaging than the in-game cutscenes that have a tendency to drag and feel more like padding. Beyond the cutscenes, the battles themselves are also quite enjoyable to watch, even if you might find yourself eventually skipping them just to hurry the match along. In fact, the graphics in general look great. The music too is well composed but stays relegated mostly to the background. In that sense, it actually has more in common with film than most video games, which is a subtle touch. Now the Fire Emblem games, or so I hear, are well known for the amount of content they provide, and Awakening is no exception. It provides a ton of optional content outside of the main quest itself, including a series of side quests you'll unlock as you play through the game. And that's not even counting the additional content that will become available in the weeks ahead as both free and paid downloads. So all in all, Fire Emblem Awakening delivers a satisfyingly deep and strategic combat experience that kept me coming back for more, even if the lack of a proper tutorial was a bit frustrating at first. But the overall experience is hampered slightly by a somewhat dull and convoluted story and inconsistent production values that are held back by mostly static text-based cutscenes that stand in stark contrast to the beautiful pre-rendered ones. But again, the core gameplay is very satisfying that rewards strategic thinking, which is why I'm giving Fire Emblem Awakening 4 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching, make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more reviews and other things gaming too.
Quite an entrance.